They say there are two kinds of silence. The first is peaceful. The second is dangerous. This was the second kind. Inside a luxury car showroom on Madison Avenue, time froze the moment the sound echoed through the marble floors. A slap. Sharp. Loud. Unmistakable. A young salesman stood trembling, his hand still raised in the air, and in front of him stood one of the richest men in America. A billionaire. People would later argue about what shocked them more. The slap itself, or the fact that the billionaire didn't fight back. Didn't shout. Didn't threaten. Didn't call security. Instead, he smiled. And that smile would change every life in that room forever. Stay with me, because this is not a story about violence. It's a story about pride, hidden pain, and a lesson so powerful that it would cost one man everything, only to give him something money could never buy. What you're about to hear is based on real events. The names have been changed, but the truth remains. And I promise you, by the end of this story, you'll question everything you thought you knew about power, forgiveness, and what really matters when we're running out of time. Because what happened that day was not an accident. It was destiny, knocking hard. Who was this salesman, and why would he risk his entire future in one reckless moment? What kind of man gets slapped in public and responds with calm? And what secret was buried so deep that when it finally surfaced, it shattered reputations, families, and fortunes? These are the questions that haunted everyone who witnessed what happened next. But before we go further, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. His name was Jonathan Hale. To the world, Jonathan Hale was a legend. Self-made. Ruthless. Brilliant. He had grown a tech empire from a dusty garage in Ohio into a global powerhouse worth over $18 billion. Newspapers called him the man who never loses. Magazine covers featured his face next to words like visionary, genius, titan. But legends often hide their scars behind headlines. Jonathan was 72 years old. Divorced twice. Estranged from his only son from his first marriage. Surrounded by people at every board meeting, every gala, every charity event, yet deeply, painfully alone. Every morning, he woke up in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and every night, he ate dinner alone at a table set for 4. The extra chairs stayed empty. Always. He believed emotions were distractions. Mistakes were unforgivable. And weakness was a disease that had no place in business or in life. Or so he told himself. Jonathan had built his entire empire on this philosophy. He fired executives without hesitation. He crushed competitors without mercy. He walked past homeless people on Fifth Avenue without a glance. People admired him. People feared him. But nobody truly knew him. Because buried beneath the custom suits and the corporate victories was a man who had made one choice, one terrible choice, 43 years ago. A choice he never spoke about. A choice that haunted him in the quiet moments between meetings and mergers. And that choice was about to come back and destroy everything. Now let me tell you about the salesman. His name was Marcus Reed. 34 years old. Former high school math teacher. Recently divorced. Drowning in debt that felt like concrete blocks tied to his ankles, pulling him deeper every month. Marcus didn't dream of selling luxury cars to millionaires and billionaires. He dreamed of stability. He dreamed of being able to sleep through the night without waking up in panic about the next bill, the next phone call from a creditor, the next rejection letter. After his wife Sarah left and took their daughter Emma to live 3 states away, Marcus fell apart. Not dramatically. Quietly. The kind of falling apart that happens behind closed doors where no one can see. He stopped teaching because he couldn't focus. He couldn't stand in front of teenagers and tell them that hard work pays off when his own life was proof that sometimes it doesn't. The bills piled up. Medical bills from his mother's final year. Legal bills from the divorce. Credit card bills from trying to keep up appearances when everything was crumbling. So he took the only job he could find that paid enough to keep him afloat. Selling high-end automobiles at Premier Motors, a showroom that catered to people who spent more on a car than Marcus would earn in 5 years. Every day, he wore a borrowed suit from his cousin. Every day, he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And every day, he swallowed humiliation. The other salesmen mocked him quietly. They came from money, from connections, from families who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen. Marcus came from a single mother who cleaned houses and a childhood spent in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens. He didn't fit. He knew it. They knew it. But he needed this job. So he stayed. He smiled through the condescending remarks. He nodded through the jokes about his cheap watch and his old car. He survived. But what no one in that showroom knew, what Marcus himself didn't fully know, was that his past was tied to Jonathan Hale. Tied in a way that would explode into the open on a cold Tuesday morning in November. And that explosion would change both of their lives forever. November 14th. The day started like any other. Marcus arrived at the showroom at 8 in the morning. He made coffee in the break room. He checked his phone and saw another message from his ex-wife's lawyer about missed child support payments. He felt the familiar knot tighten in his stomach. He took 3 deep breaths like his therapist taught him. He walked onto the showroom floor. The morning passed slowly. A few browsers. No buyers. His manager, a man named Kyle who was 10 years younger but treated Marcus like a servant, made a comment about his sales numbers. Marcus nodded. Apologized. Promised to do better. He always promised to do better. Then, at 11:47, the door opened. Jonathan Hale walked in. Alone. No assistants. No bodyguards. No entourage. Just a billionaire in a charcoal gray coat that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent, moving slowly, deliberately, like a man who owned not just companies but time itself. The showroom went silent. The staff recognized him instantly. Kyle nearly tripped over himself rushing forward, but Jonathan waved him away. His eyes scanned the room and landed on Marcus. He pointed. You. Marcus's heart jumped. He walked over, professional smile in place, hand extended. Mr. Hale, welcome to Premier Motors. How can I help you today? Jonathan didn't shake his hand. He looked at Marcus the way you might look at a stain on your shirt. Something unpleasant. Something to be dealt with. I'm interested in the Continental GT, Jonathan said. His voice was flat, bored. Marcus nodded. Excellent choice. Let me show you the features. He led Jonathan to the car, a stunning vehicle in midnight blue. He began his rehearsed presentation. The engine specifications. The handcrafted interior. The custom options. Jonathan interrupted him. Do you even know what you're talking about? Marcus paused. Yes sir, I do. This model features a 6-liter twin-turbo W12 engine. Jonathan laughed. Not loudly. Softly. Cruelly. I'm not asking about the engine. I'm asking if you understand value. Real value. The kind of value that separates people like me from people like you. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. A small crack forming. He kept his voice steady. I understand that this is a premium vehicle designed for discerning clients. Jonathan stepped closer. He smelled like expensive cologne and old leather. Discerning clients, he repeated, mocking Marcus's tone. You're reading from a script. You don't belong here. People like you never understand value because you've never created anything. You just exist. The crack widened. Marcus's hands trembled slightly. He clasped them behind his back. With respect, sir, you don't know anything about me. Jonathan smiled. A cold smile. I know enough. I know you're desperate. I can smell it. You're drowning and you're pretending to swim. It's pathetic. The other salesmen were watching now. Pretending not to, but watching. Kyle was frozen near the desk. A couple who had been browsing stopped to listen. And Marcus felt 43 years of pain rising up from a place he didn't even know existed. Because Jonathan's words weren't just about him. They were about his mother. Evelyn Reed. A woman who cleaned the homes of people like Jonathan Hale. A woman who worked 3 jobs to keep Marcus in school. A woman who died alone in a hospital bed because she couldn't afford better care. A woman who never told Marcus the full truth about his father. Only that he was gone. That he had chosen money over them. That his name didn't matter anymore. Jonathan turned to walk toward the car again. Then he stopped and said the words that ignited everything. You're replaceable. Marcus didn't think. Didn't plan. Didn't calculate consequences. His hand moved faster than his mind. The slap echoed through the showroom like a gunshot. Sharp. Loud. Unmistakable. Jonathan's head snapped to the side. The room gasped. Someone screamed. Kyle shouted Marcus's name. Security started moving. Phones came out. And Jonathan Hale slowly turned back to face Marcus. His cheek was red. His eyes were wide. But he wasn't angry. He was smiling. That same cold smile. But now there was something else behind it. Something that looked almost like recognition. Everyone freeze, Jonathan said quietly. But his voice carried command. The kind of command that comes from decades of being obeyed without question. Security stopped. Kyle stopped. Everyone stopped. Jonathan looked at Marcus with an expression that was impossible to read. Do you know, he said softly, how many people have wanted to do that? How many employees, how many competitors, how many people I've crushed have dreamed of that exact moment? Marcus's voice shook when he spoke. I didn't slap you because you're rich. I slapped you because you're cruel. Because you use your power to humiliate people who can't fight back. Because you're exactly the kind of person my mother warned me about before she died. The room was silent. Jonathan's expression changed. The smile faded. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or memory. What was your mother's name? He asked. The question came out strange. Urgent. Almost desperate. Marcus froze. Why does that matter? Tell me her name, Jonathan insisted. Marcus stared at him. The anger was still there, but now confusion mixed with it. Evelyn, he said quietly. Evelyn Reed. The air seemed to leave Jonathan's lungs. He took a step back. Stumbled slightly. Caught himself on the hood of the Continental GT. His face went pale. The security guard started forward, but Jonathan held up a hand. Everyone out, he said. His voice cracked. I want everyone out of this showroom. Now. Kyle started to protest. Sir, this man assaulted you. We need to call the police. Get out, Jonathan repeated. This time his voice was steel. Kyle looked at Marcus, then at Jonathan, then retreated. The other staff followed. The couple who had been watching hurried out. Within 60 seconds, the massive showroom was empty except for 2 men standing 10 feet apart. Marcus's heart was hammering. He expected police. Lawyers. Ruin. Instead, Jonathan Hale, one of the richest men in America, sat down heavily on the showroom floor. Just sat down, right there on the polished marble, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. And he started to cry. Not loud sobs. Quiet tears that ran down his face and dripped onto his expensive coat. Marcus didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched as a billionaire fell apart in front of him. Finally, Jonathan looked up. "Evelyn Reed," he whispered. "I knew her. 43 years ago. I loved her." Marcus felt the world tilt. "What are you talking about?" "I was nobody then," Jonathan continued, his voice hollow. "I was 29. Building my first company. Working 100 hours a week. Evelyn worked as a housekeeper for my business partner. We met at a company party. She was beautiful. Kind. Real. Everything I wasn't. We fell in love. At least, I thought it was love. Maybe it was. I don't know anymore. We were together for 8 months. Then my company got its first major investor. $10 million. But there was a condition." Jonathan wiped his eyes with shaking hands. "The investor said I needed to be marketable. Reliable. Respectable. He introduced me to his daughter. Catherine. From a wealthy family. Connected. He made it clear that the money came with expectations. Marriage. Merger of families. I had a choice to make. Evelyn or the money. The company or the woman I loved." Marcus felt sick. "You chose the money." Jonathan nodded. "I told Evelyn I needed space. That the company required all my focus. I was a coward. I didn't tell her the truth. I just disappeared from her life. Married Catherine 3 months later. The company exploded. Within 5 years I was worth 50 million. Within 10, 500 million. I built everything I dreamed of. And I never looked back. Until now," Jonathan said. "Until you said her name." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "When did she die?" Jonathan looked up sharply. "She's dead?" Marcus nodded slowly. 6 years ago. Cancer. She fought for 2 years but she couldn't afford the treatments that might have saved her. She died in a county hospital with me holding her hand." Jonathan made a sound like he'd been punched. He doubled over. "I didn't know," he gasped. "I swear I didn't know." Marcus felt tears burning his own eyes now. "Why would you? You were too busy building your empire." Jonathan looked at him with red, swollen eyes. "Did she ever talk about me?" Marcus shook his head. "She never told me who my father was. She said he was gone and that was all I needed to know. She said some men are made of ambition instead of character. I never understood what she meant. Until now." The words hit Jonathan like physical blows. "You're my son." It wasn't a question. It was a realization. A horrible, impossible, devastating realization. Marcus staggered backward. "No. No, that's not possible." Jonathan stood up slowly. "How old are you?" 34, Marcus whispered. "When's your birthday?" "February 19th. Jonathan closed his eyes. "That's 9 months after I left her." Marcus felt like the floor was dissolving beneath him. "This can't be real. This is insane. I came to work today. I was just trying to survive another day. And now you're telling me that you're my father? That the man I just slapped is my father? That the billionaire who called me pathetic is my father?" "I deserve that," Jonathan said quietly. "I deserve that and worse. I abandoned your mother. I abandoned you. I didn't know you existed, but that's not an excuse. I should have been there. I should have chosen differently. Marcus laughed. A bitter, broken sound. You think saying that helps? You think admitting it changes anything? My mother worked herself to death. She cleaned toilets in mansions while you sat in boardrooms. She chose between medicine and groceries while you bought yachts. She died alone except for me while you had everything. Jonathan's face crumpled. I know. Marcus shook his head. You don't know. You can't know. Because you've never had to choose between dignity and survival. You've never had to smile at people who treat you like garbage because you need the paycheck. You've never had to tell your daughter you can't afford to visit her for Christmas. The pain in the showroom was thick enough to choke on. Jonathan took a shaky breath. Let me help you. I can fix this. I can pay off your debts. I can set you up with a career, a house, whatever you need. Marcus stared at him. And there it was. The billionaire's solution. Throw money at the problem. Make it go away. He felt anger rising again, hot and pure. I don't want your money. Jonathan looked confused. But you're struggling. I can help. You don't understand, Marcus said. His voice was shaking but strong. I don't want your money. I don't want your charity. I don't want you to fix my life with a checkbook. You know what I want? I want you to feel what it's like to be powerless. To be invisible. To be the person ever. Jonathan reached out. Please. Marcus stepped back. Don't touch me. I need 34 years to process this. And you need to leave. Jonathan looked lost. Truly lost. For maybe the first time in his adult life, money couldn't solve his problem. Power couldn't command his way out. He nodded slowly. Can I see you again? Can we talk? Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Someone in the showroom had recorded the slap. It was already online. Already spreading. The caption read, Salesman assaults billionaire Jonathan Hale. The views were climbing. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Marcus showed Jonathan the screen. I think we're both going to have bigger problems than whether we talk again. He was right. By that evening, the video had 3 million views. By midnight, 10 million. The story was everywhere. Cable news. Social media. Think pieces. Hot takes. Most of the coverage was brutal toward Marcus. Unhinged salesman attacks customer. Violent employee assaults tech giant. Broke worker loses control. Marcus was fired within 2 hours. Kyle called him, voice dripping with fake sympathy. We have to let you go. Company policy. Zero tolerance for violence. Marcus didn't fight it. He packed the few items from his locker and left through the back door to avoid the reporters already gathering out front. His phone rang constantly. News outlets wanting interviews. Lawyers offering to represent him. Strangers calling him everything from a hero to a criminal. Jonathan Hale's publicist released a statement. Mr. Hale will not be pressing charges. This was an unfortunate incident and he wishes the individual well. That was all. No context. No explanation. And somehow that made it worse. Marcus became a meme. A cautionary tale. A joke. He couldn't leave his apartment without being recognized. His ex-wife called, furious. What were you thinking? Emma saw the video at school. Kids are teasing her. Do you have any idea what you've done? Marcus apologized. Promised to explain when he could. But how do you explain that you discovered your father is a billionaire who abandoned your mother? How do you explain that 43 years of missing pieces suddenly assembled into a picture so painful you could barely look at it? Days passed. Then a week. Marcus stayed inside. Stopped answering his phone. Lived on canned soup and silence. The internet moved on to the next outrage, but his life remained destroyed. No job. No prospects. No future. Just debt and shame and the crushing weight of a truth he never asked for. He thought about his mother constantly. Evelyn. She had been so strong. So determined to give him a good life despite everything. She never complained. Never said a bad word about his absent father. Just worked and loved him and taught him that character mattered more than money. And now he knew why she never spoke about his father. Because speaking about Jonathan Hale would have meant reliving the abandonment. The betrayal. The choice he made. 2 weeks after the slap, Marcus received a letter. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter, delivered by courier. The envelope was heavy. Expensive. Inside was a handwritten note on cream-colored stationery. The handwriting was shaky, uncertain. Nothing like the confident billionaire who had walked into the showroom. Marcus read it standing in his kitchen, hands trembling. It said, "I have no right to ask this. I know that. But I'm asking anyway. Please meet me. Not as a billionaire and a salesman. Not as strangers. As a father trying to know his son before it's too late. There's something I need to tell you. Something you deserve to know." The letter included an address. A coffee shop in Brooklyn. A time. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. It was signed simply, Jonathan. Marcus almost threw it away. Almost. But something stopped him. Maybe curiosity. Maybe anger needing an outlet. Maybe the small voice that sounded like his mother saying that everyone deserves a chance to tell their truth. He didn't sleep that night. Paced his apartment. Argued with himself. By morning he had decided. He would go. Not to forgive. Not to reconcile. But to hear what a dying man, because surely someone doesn't write a letter like that unless they're running out of time, needs to say. He arrived at the coffee shop at exactly 2 p.m. Jonathan was already there. Sitting in the back corner. He looked different. Smaller somehow. The expensive coat was gone. He wore a simple sweater. His face was gaunt. Tired. Sick. Marcus sat down across from him. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally Jonathan broke the silence. "Thank you for coming." Marcus nodded but said nothing. Jonathan continued, his voice weak. "I'm dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed 3 months ago. The doctors give me maybe 6 weeks. Maybe less." Marcus felt a complicated tangle of emotions. Part of him wanted to feel satisfaction. Karma. Justice. But mostly he just felt sad. Sad for the wasted years. The wasted life. "I'm sorry," Marcus heard himself say. Jonathan looked surprised. "You're sorry? After everything?" Marcus shrugged. "You're still a human being. And you're dying. I'm not so broken that I can't feel compassion for that." Jonathan's eyes filled with tears again. "You're more like your mother than you know." They talked for 3 hours that day. Jonathan told stories about Evelyn. How she laughed. How she saw through his insecurities. How she made him want to be better. Marcus shared memories of growing up. The struggles. The small joys. The lessons she taught. They didn't hug. Didn't make grand proclamations. But something shifted. A small crack in the wall. Over the next 2 weeks, they met 4 more times. Short meetings. Coffee. A walk in the park. Simple conversations. Jonathan never offered money again. Marcus never asked. They were just two men trying to find connection in the ruins of what could have been. And slowly, painfully, Marcus began to see his father as more than a monster. Flawed. Broken. Human. On their fifth meeting, Jonathan looked worse. Weaker. He could barely walk from his car to the bench where they sat. "Marcus," he said slowly, "I need to tell you something. I've rewritten my will." Marcus tensed. "Jonathan, I told you I don't want your money." "I know," Jonathan interrupted. "That's why I'm not leaving it to you." Marcus blinked, confused. "What?" Jonathan smiled faintly. "I'm leaving it to charity. Hospitals. Cancer research. Scholarships for kids from single-parent homes. The kind of thing that might have helped your mother. Helped you. My lawyers think I'm insane. My ex-wives are going to sue. My son from my first marriage is already threatening legal action. But I don't care. I can't undo the past. But maybe I can help people I'll never meet. People like Evelyn." Marcus felt something break open in his chest. "That's the most decent thing I've ever heard you say." Jonathan nodded. "I learned it from you. From watching you refuse my money. From seeing that you valued dignity over comfort. You're a better man than I ever was. And you learned that from her." They sat in silence. The sun was setting. The park was emptying. Finally Marcus spoke. "Do you have regrets?" Jonathan laughed. A hollow sound. "Only one. That I didn't choose love when I had the chance. Everything else, the money, the success, the empire, it's all just noise. But losing Evelyn, losing the chance to be your father, that's the only thing that matters. And it's the one thing I can never fix." 3 weeks later, Marcus received a phone call. Jonathan had been admitted to hospice. He was asking for Marcus. Marcus drove to the facility, a quiet place on the edge of the city. Jonathan's room was simple. No luxury. Just a bed, a window, machines beeping softly. Jonathan looked like a shadow. His skin was gray. His breathing labored. But when he saw Marcus, his eyes lit up. "You came," he whispered. Marcus pulled a chair close to the bed. "Of course I came." Jonathan's hand reached out, shaking. Marcus took it. "I'm scared," Jonathan admitted. "I've never been scared of anything. But I'm scared now." Marcus squeezed his hand. "That's okay. It's okay to be scared." Jonathan's eyes searched his face. "Do you think she would have forgiven me? Evelyn?" Marcus thought carefully. "I think she forgave you a long time ago. She wasn't the type to carry hate. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what you did was okay. It just means she chose not to let it poison her." Jonathan nodded slowly. "And you? Can you forgive me?" Marcus felt tears on his cheeks. "I'm working on it. Ask me again in another life." Jonathan smiled. "That's fair." They sat together in silence. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. The machines beeped. Jonathan's breathing grew shallower. As the sun set, he spoke one last time. "Tell people," he whispered. "Tell them that money doesn't fill the holes. That power doesn't heal the wounds. That in the end, all that matters is whether you loved the people who needed you." Marcus leaned close. "I will." Jonathan closed his eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know," Marcus whispered. "I know." Jonathan Hale died at 8:37 p.m. on December 3rd. Marcus was holding his hand. The news broke immediately. Billionaire Jonathan Hale dead at 72. The obituaries were glowing. Visionary. Pioneer. Titan of industry. They listed his achievements. His companies. His wealth. But they didn't mention Evelyn. They didn't mention the son he met too late. They didn't mention the regrets that consumed his final days. Marcus didn't attend the public funeral. It was a circus. Cameras. Politicians. CEOs. People who never knew the real Jonathan Hale. Instead, Marcus held a private memorial. Just him. He went to his mother's grave. Placed flowers. And told her everything. About the slap. The discovery. The meetings. The death. "I hope you're together now," he said to the headstone. "I hope you're both at peace." The will reading was as chaotic as Jonathan predicted. His son from his first marriage contested it immediately. The ex-wives lawyered up. But Jonathan's attorneys had prepared for this. The will was airtight. $18 billion, the bulk of the estate, went to charitable foundations. His son received $10 million, enough to live comfortably but not enough to maintain the lifestyle he expected. And Marcus received nothing. Exactly as Jonathan promised. The press had a field day. Why did Jonathan Hale disinherit his family? Was he mentally incompetent? Sources close to the family suggested he had been unduly influenced. But the will stood. And Marcus watched it all from a distance, relieved to be uninvolved. 6 months later, Marcus received a package. Inside was a second letter from Jonathan. This one had been held by his attorney with instructions to deliver it after the will was settled. Marcus opened it sitting on his apartment floor. The letter was longer this time. Pages. It told the full story of Jonathan and Evelyn. The love. The cowardice. The regret. It told stories about Marcus's mother that he had never heard. Her dreams. Her humor. Her strength. And it ended with this: "I'm leaving you nothing because you need nothing from me. You have what matters. Character. Integrity. The ability to choose what's right even when it costs you everything. You're proof that Evelyn succeeded where I failed. She raised a man of value. Real value. Not the kind measured in bank accounts. The kind that matters when the lights go out and you're alone with yourself. I'm proud to be your father, even if I never earned the title." Marcus cried reading it. Not from grief. From release. From the strange, complicated peace that comes when a chapter finally closes. He kept the letter. Framed it. Put it on his wall. A reminder of the man his mother was, the man his father became too late, and the man he was determined to be. He returned to teaching 3 months after Jonathan died. Not at a prestigious private school. At a public school in the Bronx. Kids from broken homes. Kids struggling like he had struggled. Kids who needed someone to believe in them. He didn't talk about Jonathan. Didn't mention the viral video. Just taught math and listened and showed up every day. And he was good at it. Better than before. Because now he taught with purpose. One day, a student asked him why he became a teacher. Marcus thought for a long moment. Then he told them a story. Not the whole story. Just the part about choices. He said, "I once knew a man who had everything but gave up the one thing that mattered. He spent his whole life trying to fill that hole with success and power. And in the end, he learned that you can't buy back time. You can't purchase love. You can't trade money for meaning. So he made a different choice. He chose to help people he'd never meet. And that choice mattered more than all the years before it." The students listened quietly. One girl raised her hand. "What happened to him?" "He died," Marcus said. But not before he figured out what he should have known all along. Years passed. The video of the slap still existed online, but it faded into the background noise of the internet. Marcus rebuilt his life slowly. He paid down his debts. He rebuilt his relationship with his daughter Emma. She came to visit him every other weekend. He taught her math and told her stories about her grandmother. He never told her about Jonathan. Not yet. Maybe one day when she was older. When she could understand the complexity. For now, he just tried to be present. To be the father he wished he'd had. On the anniversary of Jonathan's death, Marcus visited the hospice where he died. He volunteered there now. Once a month. Reading to patients. Sitting with people who had no family. Holding hands when the end came. It was his way of honoring both Jonathan and Evelyn. Of turning pain into purpose. The hospice staff loved him. They didn't know his story. They just knew he showed up. That he cared. That he treated dying strangers with dignity. One nurse asked him once why he volunteered. "Most people can't handle this work," she said. Marcus smiled. "I learned from someone that the end is when we tell the truth. I want to be there for that. To witness it. To honor it." The nurse nodded, not fully understanding, but respecting it nonetheless. And Marcus continued showing up. Week after week. Month after month. Holding space for people in their final chapter. Sometimes they thanked him. Sometimes they didn't recognize him. Sometimes they just needed someone to sit with them in the silence. And he did. Every time. 5 years after the slap, Marcus received an unexpected email. It was from Jonathan's attorney. There had been a provision in the will that Marcus didn't know about. A delayed clause. It said that if Marcus continued to work in public service, education, or charity for 5 consecutive years after Jonathan's death, he would receive one item. Not money. Not property. Just one item. The attorney attached a photo. It was a ring. Simple. Gold. Old. Marcus recognized it from one of Jonathan's stories. It had belonged to Jonathan's grandmother. The only family heirloom he kept. The only thing that mattered to him beyond the business. And he had left it for Marcus. Not immediately. Only if Marcus proved who he was through actions, not words. Marcus cried when he saw it. Not because of the ring's value, though it was probably worth tens of thousands. But because it was proof. Proof that Jonathan believed in him. Trusted him. Saw him as worthy of the family legacy. The attorney arranged for the ring to be delivered. Marcus wore it on a chain around his neck. Hidden under his shirt. Close to his heart. It became his reminder. On hard days when teaching felt impossible. When students failed despite his best efforts. When bureaucracy crushed his spirit. When doubt crept in. He would touch the ring and remember. Remember that people can change. That it's never too late to choose differently. That legacy isn't about what you accumulate but what you leave behind in the hearts of others. Emma noticed the ring one day. She was 16 now. Smart. Perceptive. "Dad, what's that?" Marcus looked at her. Debated. Decided it was time. He told her the story. All of it. The slap. The discovery. The reconciliation. The death. The ring. Emma listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was crying. So Grandma was in love with a billionaire and he abandoned her? Marcus nodded. And you forgave him? Marcus thought carefully. I understood him. Understanding and forgiving aren't always the same thing. But yes, eventually I forgave him. Not for his sake. For mine. Because carrying that anger was like drinking poison and expecting him to die. Emma hugged him. You're a better person than I would be. Marcus held her close. "You're your grandmother's granddaughter. You're already better than all of us." That conversation changed something between Marcus and Emma. They grew closer. She started asking about Evelyn more. Marcus shared every memory, every lesson, every story. Emma wrote a school essay about her grandmother. About a woman who worked 3 jobs and raised a son alone and never complained. The essay won a local competition. They published it in the paper. People reached out. Strangers who had known Evelyn. Other housekeepers she worked with. Families she cleaned for. They all said the same thing. She was kind. She was dignified. She worked harder than anyone. She deserved better. Marcus collected their stories. Put them in a journal. Created a record of his mother's life. The life Jonathan missed. The life that mattered more than any business deal. 10 years after the slap, Marcus was named Teacher of the Year for his district. The ceremony was small. Local. Nothing fancy. But Emma was there. His ex-wife Sarah came too, supportive now in a way she hadn't been during their marriage. Some of his students, former and current, attended. During his acceptance speech, Marcus didn't talk about teaching methods or curriculum. He talked about value. He said, "We live in a world that measures success by money and power and fame. But real value is measured differently. It's measured by the lives you touch. The people you help. The moments when you choose kindness over cruelty, compassion over judgment, connection over isolation." I learned this lesson late. From 2 people. My mother, who lived it every day. And my father, who learned it too late but still learned it. I'm honored to be here. But I'm more honored to serve these students. They're the future. And they deserve someone who sees their value. Their real value. The room applauded. It wasn't a standing ovation. It wasn't viral. It didn't trend on social media. But it mattered. To the people in that room, it mattered. Afterward, a former student approached Marcus. Her name was Jasmine. She had been in his class 7 years ago. Struggling. Angry. From a broken home. Marcus had stayed after school with her 3 times a week. Helped her with math. Listened to her problems. Believed in her when no one else did. "Mr. Reed," she said, "I wanted you to know I'm graduating college next month. First person in my family. I'm going to be a teacher too. Because of you." Marcus hugged her. "That's all you. I just showed up." She shook her head. "You did more than show up. You saw me. Really saw me. That changed everything." That night, Marcus sat in his apartment holding the ring. He thought about Jonathan. About Evelyn. About the strange path that led him here. The slap that could have ruined him became the moment that saved him. Not because of money. Not because of fame. But because it forced him to confront truth. To face pain. To choose forgiveness over bitterness. And in that choice, he found purpose. He wondered what Jonathan would think of his life now. Would he be proud? Would he be surprised? Would he regret missing it? Marcus decided it didn't matter. Jonathan's opinion, Jonathan's approval, Jonathan's legacy, none of it defined him. He was defined by his choices. And he chose to be like his mother. Every single day. The ring became a teaching tool eventually. Marcus would show it to students when they asked about his necklace. He'd tell them the abbreviated story. About a father and son who met too late. About forgiveness and second chances. About measuring life by what matters. The students always had questions. Did you wish you knew him sooner? Would you have taken the money? Do you hate him for leaving your mom? Marcus answered honestly. Every time. Yes, I wish I knew him sooner. No, I'm glad I didn't take the money. And no, I don't hate him. Hate would mean he still controlled me. I chose freedom instead. The students would nod, processing. And sometimes, weeks or months later, they'd come back and say, I thought about what you said. About choosing freedom. I needed to hear that. 15 years after the slap, Marcus was 50 years old. Emma was 26. She had become a social worker. She helped families in crisis. She was good at it. Compassionate. Strong. Marcus watched her with pride. She was the best of all of them. Evelyn's kindness. Jonathan's intelligence. Marcus's integrity. She was the legacy that mattered. One evening, Emma called him. Dad, I need to tell you something. She sounded nervous. Marcus's heart jumped. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm great actually. I'm writing a book. About Grandma. About you and Jonathan. About the whole story. I want people to know that wealth isn't the same as worth. That power isn't the same as purpose. That it's never too late to choose love. Marcus was silent. Emma, you don't have to do that. I want to, she insisted. Grandma's story deserves to be told. Your story deserves to be told. Is that okay? Marcus thought for a long moment. Then he said yes. With one condition. Tell the truth. All of it. Don't make Jonathan a villain. Don't make me a hero. Don't make Evelyn a saint. Just tell the truth. People are complicated. Life is messy. But truth matters. Emma agreed. She spent the next 2 years researching. Interviewing. Writing. She tracked down people who knew Jonathan. People who knew Evelyn. She read through the letters Jonathan left. She sat with Marcus for hours, recording his memories. And she wrote a book. Not a bestseller. Not a major publication. But a small, honest memoir called The Price of Everything. It was about value. Real value. The kind you can't buy. The book sold a few thousand copies. Mostly to teachers. Social workers. People in service professions. People who understood that meaning isn't measured in dollars. Marcus read it cover to cover. Cried through most of it. Not from sadness. From recognition. Emma had captured it. The complexity. The pain. The redemption. She had told the truth. And in that truth, all three of them, Evelyn, Jonathan, and Marcus, were finally seen fully. Flaws and all. Human and real. One reviewer wrote, "This book reminds us that everyone is fighting battles we know nothing about. That judgment is easy but compassion requires courage. That the most important inheritance isn't money but character." Marcus cut out the review. Put it in his journal. Next to his mother's picture. Next to the last letter from Jonathan. 20 years after the slap, Marcus retired from teaching. He was 54. Still young enough to start something new. He used his savings to open a community center in the Bronx. Free tutoring. Job training. Counseling. Support for single parents. Everything his mother could have used. Everything he wished had existed when he was struggling. He named it Evelyn's Place. On opening day, Emma was there. Sarah was there. Former students were there. Local families showed up. It wasn't fancy. Just a renovated storefront with donated furniture and volunteer staff. But it was needed. Desperately needed. And Marcus ran it with the same quiet determination his mother had shown cleaning houses. No drama. No self-promotion. Just showing up. Day after day. Helping people who needed help. The center grew slowly. Word spread. Donations came in. Small amounts mostly. $20 here. $50 there. But it added up. Volunteers signed up. Teachers. Counselors. People who wanted to give back. Marcus worked there 6 days a week. He tutored kids in math. He helped parents fill out job applications. He sat with struggling families and listened. Really listened. And slowly, the center became a hub. A place where people could come and be seen. Be valued. Be helped without judgment. One parent told him, "You saved my family." Marcus shook his head. "You saved your family. I just provided a space." But the parent insisted. "No. You gave us hope. That's everything." Emma visited often. She was proud of what her father built. One day she asked him, "Do you ever think about the video? About the slap?" Marcus smiled. "Sometimes. It feels like a different life. A different person." She nodded. "Do you regret it?" Marcus considered. "No. It was reckless. Stupid. Career-ending. But it was also the moment everything changed. The moment I met my father. The moment I had to choose what kind of person I wanted to be. So no, I don't regret it. I regret that it took something that extreme to wake me up. But I don't regret the journey it started." Emma hugged him. "Grandma would be so proud of you." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I hope so. I really hope so." 25 years after the slap, Marcus was diagnosed with a heart condition. Serious but manageable. The doctor said he needed to slow down. Reduce stress. Marcus laughed. "I run a community center in the Bronx. Stress is the job description." But he listened. Hired more help. Delegated. Spent more time with Emma and her family. She had married a kind man named David. They had 2 children. Marcus's grandchildren. A boy and a girl. 7 and 5. They called him Poppy. He loved them fiercely. Taught them math. Told them stories about their great-grandmother. Showed them the ring. Explained that family is complicated but love is simple. Just show up. Choose kindness. See people. The kids didn't fully understand. But they would. Someday. On the 30th anniversary of the slap, a journalist reached out to Marcus. She had found the original video. Wanted to do a "Where Are They Now" piece. Marcus declined. Politely. She persisted. "Your story is incredible. People need to hear it." Marcus responded with an email. He wrote, "My story isn't about me. It's about 2 people who made mistakes and 1 person who refused to let those mistakes define her. My mother is the story. Her strength. Her grace. Her ability to love me despite everything. If you want to write about something, write about the millions of single parents working multiple jobs. The people who clean offices at night so their kids can have better lives. The quiet heroes no one celebrates. That's the story that matters." The journalist published his response. It went viral. Not as big as the original slap. But big enough. People shared it. Discussed it. And for a few days, the conversation shifted from outrage to reflection. Marcus continued his work. Quietly. Consistently. Evelyn's place served over 200 families a year. Some went on to college. Some found stable jobs. Some just survived another year. All of it mattered. Every single person. Every single story. Marcus kept a journal now. writing down the lessons he learned. The moments that mattered. The conversations that changed him. He planned to leave it for his grandchildren. A record of what he valued. Not money. Not fame. Not power. But connection. Service. Love. The things that echo after we're gone. He wrote, "If you remember nothing else, remember this: you are not defined by where you come from or what you lack. You are defined by what you choose to do with the time you have. Choose love. Choose service. Choose to see the value in every person. That's the inheritance that matters." Marcus lived to be 71. His heart finally gave out on a quiet Sunday morning. He died at home. Emma was there. His grandchildren were there. He was surrounded by pictures of Evelyn. Letters from students. Thank you notes from families. The ring around his neck. His last words were, "Tell them I tried to be worthy." Emma held his hand. "You were, Dad. You were." The funeral was huge. Not because Marcus was famous. But because he was loved. Teachers. Students. Parents. Community members. People whose lives he touched. They filled the church. Stood in the back. Lined the streets. Shared stories. Laughed. Cried. Celebrated a life well lived. Emma gave the eulogy. She talked about her grandmother's strength. Her father's integrity. And yes, she talked about Jonathan. About second chances. About forgiveness. About the slap that changed everything. She ended with this: "My father taught me that wealth is measured in people, not possessions. That power is measured in service, not control. That legacy is measured in lives touched, not empires built." He learned these lessons from his mother. And in the end, he taught them to his father. And now I'm teaching them to you. We all have a choice. Every single day. We can choose money or meaning. Power or purpose. Isolation or connection. My father chose meaning. Chose purpose. Chose connection. And because of that choice, hundreds of lives are better. Including mine. So I'm asking you, what will you choose? The question hung in the air. People wiped their eyes. Nodded. And in that moment, Marcus's legacy was secure. Not in buildings or bank accounts. But in hearts and minds and choices yet to be made. Evelyn's place continued after Marcus's death. Emma took over. Expanded it. Opened a second location. Named the original building the Marcus Reed Center. Put his picture on the wall next to Evelyn's. Mother and son. Both heroes. Both quiet warriors who chose love over bitterness. The ring went to Emma. She wore it on special occasions. Showed it to her children. Told them the story. About a salesman and a billionaire. About a slap that echoed through decades. About three people who proved that it's never too late to choose differently. And the story spread. Not virally. Not famously. But steadily. Person to person. Heart to heart. Teachers shared it with students. Parents shared it with children. And slowly, quietly, Marcus's lesson rippled outward. Choose value over wealth. Choose character over status. Choose love over everything. Now I ask you, what would you have done in Marcus's position? Would you have taken the money when it was first offered? Would you have forgiven Jonathan? Would you have walked away? Think about it honestly. We all like to believe we'd choose integrity over comfort. But when the bills are piling up and your ex-wife is threatening to take your daughter further away and your one paycheck from homelessness, would you really refuse $18 billion? Or even a fraction of it? Marcus did. Why? Because his mother taught him that some things can't be bought. Dignity. Self-respect. The ability to look at yourself in the mirror. He could have been rich. He chose to be whole instead. What would you choose? And what about Jonathan? Do you believe he truly changed? Or was the deathbed confession just guilt and fear of mortality? Some people say you can't change who you are in the final weeks of life. That Jonathan was still the same man who abandoned Evelyn. Just older and scared. Others believe that awareness is the first step to redemption. That even though Jonathan couldn't undo his choices, he could acknowledge them. Own them. Try to make meaning from the wreckage. What do you think? Can people truly change at the end? Or are we just the sum of our choices, good and bad, with no chance for revision? I want to hear from you. What do you believe about redemption? And Evelyn. Think about her for a moment. A woman who was abandoned while pregnant. Who could have become bitter? Who could have poisoned her son against his father? Who could have demanded child support or exposed Jonathan or made his life hell? But she didn't. She chose dignity. She chose to protect her son from that pain. She chose to build a life on her own terms. Some people might say she was too forgiving. That she let Jonathan off too easy. That she deserved justice. Others would say she was wise. That she refused to let Jonathan's betrayal define her. That she won by living well. What do you think? Did Evelyn make the right choice? Or did she deserve more? These aren't easy questions. There are no clean answers. That's what makes this story real. Life is complicated. People are complicated. We're all trying to do our best with broken tools and incomplete information. Marcus slapped a billionaire and discovered his father. That's the headline. But the real story is about what happened next. The choices made in the aftermath. The slow, painful work of forgiveness. The decision to build meaning from pain. That's what matters. Not the viral moment. But the years of quiet integrity that followed. So I'll ask you one more time. If you were Marcus, what would you have chosen? Really think about it. And if this story touched you, if it made you think about your own life and your own choices, do me a favor. Don't just watch and forget. Share this. Not for views or likes or algorithm points. But because someone in your life might need to hear this message right now. Someone struggling. Someone bitter. Someone who believes money is the answer to everything. Send them this story. Tell them that there's another way. A harder way. But a better way. And if you're new here and you want more stories like this, stories that don't just entertain but challenge you to be better, click that subscribe button. Because we're building something here. A community of people who believe that character matters more than clout. That meaning matters more than metrics. That we can choose differently. Will you join us? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. And I want to hear your story too. Because we're all connected. All struggling. All trying. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other choose the harder, better path. Thank you for watching. And remember, it's never too late to choose love.